Independence Day. We have a couple that I learned were not feeling well this morning, so they didn't attend. But we do have a quorum. So again, I'm Bruce Warner, the president of the TriMet Board of Directors. And I'm going to call the regular November 28, 2012 meeting of the TriMet Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon's Board of Directors meeting to order. So with that, we're going to go right into the reports. First up is the general manager comments. Mr. McFarland.
Yes, Mr. Board President, members of the board, good morning. I wanted to just touch on a few issues this morning. One is the issue of max reliability, and I'm sure you noticed in the monthly performance report that during the month of October, our max on-time performance took a bit of a hit. We were down to about 74.6% on time, and that had to do with a number of factors, some of which were very public at the time during the month of October. For example, a person crashing into the pole, catenary pole in Gresham, which actually bent the pole and required a great deal of time to get the wires back up into shape. You might remember the window washer's rope that wrapped around the catenary that destroyed a pantograph that also took a great deal of time. We had a truck hit a train on the yellow line. On and on, we had a series of very bad incidents during that month, but I wanted to report to you that as of now on October, we're back up to what has been our basic average, which is about, as of yesterday, 82.9% on-time performance. Now, this is an important question for us, and one that I'll be wanting to address you more thoroughly during the budget process, but I would love to see the kinds of investments and work that can actually begin to raise that standard even above what has been normal for us, which is in the 83 to 85% arrangement. And that has to do with making sure that our vehicles are always in the top shape, our switches and signals are always in very top shape, and that while there may be little that we can do about some of those third-party accidents that I just described, what we can control, we really do need control. And one of the things I want to review with the board, and in reviewing right now with the staff, will be the efforts we can take to really make sure that our system is as highly reliable as we possibly can. So there will be much more on that as we enter the budget season and begin to talk about our investments. I also wanted to note that as of this Friday, we have another milestone, which is our contract with the Amalgamated Transit Union expires. You will note the same frustration that I note, which is that the existing contract has been in place for 4 months, and according to my day, 18 days. So it took us quite a long time to get that 3-year contract in place. Matter of fact, most of the 3 years had passed, as you well know, before we were able to get an arbitrator's decision on the contract. My hope is that that duration can be shortened dramatically this time, and I hope that's the case. This Friday, the ATU and TriMet are scheduled to begin negotiations and discuss how those negotiations shall progress. We're also prepared on the first day to actually exchange proposals with the ATU. That will be up to the ATU in terms of the timing of those actual steps, but we are ready to go is the message to you right now. In my view, this contract really needs to meet 3 major tests. It needs to be fair to our riders. We've had enough of service cuts and fare increases above the level of the cost of living. It needs to be fair to our employees. This is not a race to the bottom in terms of benefits and costs and wages, but we do need to be in line with our peer agencies and other government agencies in this realm. And we need to be fair to the taxpayers who invest in the service and really want to see it managed in a very efficient business and that their dollars are used wisely. So I would also note that all of our proposals, while we're not able to make them public until we exchange them with the ATU, really follow the guidance we received from the board. And this goes back to May of 2010, when you adopted a policy that really directed us to bring, I quote, bring TriMet's healthcare and post-employment benefits in line with the sustainable forecast of future TriMet revenues. So that continues to be our our focused direction in terms of these negotiations. So the other point I make about the timeline of this is that we have sent, and as I've informed you in the past, we've sent notice to the ATU that upon the expiration of the contract, there will be a freeze in the cost of living raise and also increased costs of healthcare premiums over and above what are currently in place will be accruing to the employees. And so I want that short time of uncertainty that affects the employees to be as short as possible. And so, again, those efforts are in line with the recent ERB case that we saw with that was litigated through the last contract. And again, the best approach for all of us, we know, is to negotiate a good outcome, and we pledge our very best faith to do that. Randy Stedman, as you know, will lead our efforts in that regard, starting this Friday. I did also want to just provide a very short update on the Portland-Milwaukee project. We gave you a full briefing 2 weeks ago, but you saw perhaps in the news media this week that we began welding rail for the first time, which is a very big step for us. Because before you weld rail, you've got to create a place to put it, which means a great deal of work has already been done. I would also note that we're also expecting continued progress on the bridge, and that is looking really good. Particularly the west pylon is nearing its ultimate height and position. So we are very pleased with the progress of the project right now, and see it on time and on budget, as you heard at your last briefing. Mr. President, that concludes my remarks for this morning.
Any questions for the General Manager?
If I may, Neil, thank you for highlighting the on-time performance that it sort of called out in the report that staff provided. You probably already do this, but is there an opportunity, if not already done, to imagine other developing regions where service such as MAX already exists, but they've experienced density and growth? So, for example, I remember being in Gresham when light rail opened, and much of the area was not very dense, and now it is much more dense. Same could be true of Hillsborough and portions of western Washington County interstate, and we don't have the benefit of being along I-205 in many locations. My point being is, are there any learned experiences? Because accidents occur, but they probably will occur more frequently as areas become more dense, and others around us have the opportunity to drop ropes and turn left instead of turning right with a truck or whatever it might be. Are there any learned experiences from other regions or other districts that have experienced the ability to manage those occurrences that affect performances that are not in our control directly? Does that make any sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't have a good answer. So I think it's an excellent question. It's one that I'll ask staff to ponder. To some extent, as you well know, we've really been ahead of the curve in North America in the development of light rails. And so we would want to look at some of our other peers, like San Diego, for example, that also has a substantial system and what they've found. But I think it's an excellent question, and it would call into question whether or not, as the areas change, whether some, for lack of a better term, some hardening of the alignment might be in order related to make sure that our reliability is maintained. The other thing that I would just note about the characteristic of our system is that we do have a lot of branching, which means a lot of signals, which means that those trains need to be timed properly to come into the safety interlockings that are in place. And so when one of those trains gets off, it often has a series of domino effects on other trains, and so that also affects that on-time arrival as well. So it really does require, with the interconnected system, many lines coming together at places like Gateway or Rose Quarter, a great deal of precision in the part of the operation. And so how do we maintain that, and how do we ensure that, I think, is one of the great questions going forward. But I appreciate the question, and we'll do some research.
Other questions? I had one, Neil, was the status of the appeal by the union the arbitrator's decision? Just where is that? I mean, we obviously thought we had some savings in our contract, and
Yeah.
and that obviously appeal put that binding arbitration, which I guess isn't binding, in question. So I'm just curious what the status and timing of that might be.
Perhaps I could ask Randy
Okay.
to give you a quick report on that.
Good morning. We have a hearing scheduled January 10th, 8th through the 10th actually, on the ATU's ULP that challenges through 9 counts the interest arbitration award. The only part of the interest arbitration award that they did not challenge is the wage increase and one other issue about the JLRC meeting. So from their perspective, everything is on the table to be decided by IRB. We also have a ULP which we hope to be consolidated against the ATU for not implementing and not allowing us to implement all aspects of the interest arbitration award. At this point, all of the award has been implemented, but for the retroactive aspect of the plan design, the medical plan design, which under the award was retroactive to December 1st, 2009.
And so when might we expect a decision by?
Well, that's difficult to predict. IRF has been getting out its decisions a little bit faster since they've got a full board, but I would say it would be probably at least 3 or 4 months after the hearing.
Okay. Thank you, I think.
Yeah, good question.
All right, so moving on to Director Schweitzer, I'd like to give us an update from the Finance and Audit Committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Seen you 2 days in a row. I like it already. Okay, we met November 14th, and I have a list of items here, but I'm going to highlight the 3 major items that we discussed. The payroll tax forecast. We forecasted 8.5% growth, and that will be used for the fiscal year 14 budget assumption. And the growth comes from 3 factors: inflation at 3.8%, rate increase at 1.4%, and real growth at 3.3%. We further discussed the Portland-Milwaukee financing, speaking of Portland-Milwaukee, and this interim financing that we've been receiving, we will need that in advance of the scheduled receipt of federal money. So this form of borrowing is fairly common for TriMet. We've done this on 3 other projects. And the FTA has a 100% track record of paying what they owe. So we're not as concerned given their track record. All costs are grant eligible and fully budgeted in the project budget. And an authorizing resolution should be before the board at the end of December. We talked about calling some of our bonds, paying those off early. About $6.8 million in senior lien revenue bonds will be called by March 1 next year. And by calling these bonds, it saves TriMet quite a lot of interest, about $680,000. And the weighted annual rate of return is 4.75%. So those were the 3 major items. Dave, is there anything you want to add that I did not highlight that you think we should? Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thanks.
Excellent. Questions of Director Schweitzer? Good. Thank you for that report.
You're welcome.
All right, good. Let's move on to the Committee on Accessible Transportation. Dr. Beth will give a report for it this morning.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. You have before you a summary of highlights that happened in the last CAP meeting. We met on the 21st of November, the day before Thanksgiving. It was a great meeting, and we all were thankful indeed for being there as well. But no other things to add. We do have before the board this morning will be the approval of a bylaw change as requested by the Portland Streetcar for the Accessible Committee to be a part. So we do encourage the board to fully support that and pass that. That's it, Mr. President.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions of Dr. Bethel? Thank you. All right, moving right on then to our business items. The next item under consideration is the consent agenda. As noted, these are considered routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. Usually we have a number of items in the consent agenda. This time we only have one, the approval of the board meeting minutes for October 24th, 2012. So unless there are concerns by the board, I'd like to see if there's a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to resolutions then. The first resolution is Resolution 12-11-97, which is approving amended Committee on Accessible Transportation, CAT as we call it, bylaws. So again, Mr. General Manager, do you have a staff report for us on this?
Mr. Board President, as Board Member Bethel noted, that the CAT has recommended a change in the bylaws, and actually the history of this is actually very, I think, timely for the board. You might recall that this summer you approved a master agreement with the City of Portland regarding the Portland streetcar and our long-term arrangement with Portland streetcar. For that series of reasons, plus the work that the CAT has been doing, frankly, on streetcar, it seemed appropriate at this point in time to bring forward to you an amendment to the CAT bylaws, which would actually add to the specific scope of the Committee on Accessible Transportation responsibility for overseeing and recommending to you and the city accessibility matters regarding Portland streetcar. So that's the one change to the bylaws which is included in this this resolution, and we recommend approval, as did your Committee on Accessible Transportation.
Seems like fairly straightforward. I have any questions of staff on this one? Well, seeing none then, and there's nobody that I believe wants to testify on this one, is there? So I guess I would entertain then a motion to approve Resolution 12-11-98, which is, 97, which is approving amended Committee on Accessible Transportation bylaws.
So moved, Mr. President.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. I see no abstentions. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. All right, now moving on to Resolution 12-11-98, which is authorizing a contract with Medical Transportation Management Incorporated for lift eligibility assessment services. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, Mr. Board President, members of the board, as you well know, a few years ago, we actually began in-person assessments for lift eligibility. One of the key services that are provided in that are actually certified individuals who are certified related to the eligibility criteria. We have contracted for those services over those last few years. That contract is about to expire. We issued an RFP for new services. Medical Transportation Management was they responded to that, and they were asked then to submit a best and final offer. The good news out of that whole process is that their initial year is actually lower than the current year in terms of the actual cost of those services. It essentially provides 3 certified people to actually respond to our needs at the Lift Assessment Center. The contract has a base price in the first year of $318,000. It grows with a escalation clause to a total of about $1.68 million over 5 years. And again, each option year is optional based on the performance of the contractor. And I think one of the great advantages of this, is that they are specialized personnel and they're brought to the Lift Assessment Center that then, frankly, are not the kinds of services that TriMet or personnel that TriMet has generally on staff. The second is that all the costs of the employment are borne by the contractor, including filling in for vacations and sick time and that sort of thing. So we make sure that we have a full level of service at the Lift Assessment Center at all times. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but do recommend your approval.
Any questions on the staff report? Good, then I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 12-11-98, authorizing a contract with Medical Transportation Management, Inc. for lift eligibility assessment services.
So moved.
I hear a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? No. The motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to the last resolution today, which is Resolution 12-11-100, which is authorizing TriMet to acquire by purchase or by exercise of power of eminent domain certain real property necessary to the construction of the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail Project. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, this is a condemnation resolution. Again, you have authorized the acquisition of this parcel in past actions associated with the Portland-Milwaukee project. I would note that in this case, this is a parcel down at the terminus site at Lake Road Station, and it's an essential parcel related to the Park and Ride development that will be at the terminal station for the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail project. And the outlines of the property are indicated in the attachments to the resolution. I would also note that we have completed appraisals, reviewed appraisals with the federal government, and made an offer to the property owner. So what this will do is allow us to come together. Our hope is that still through either negotiation, mediation, we can reach a satisfactory outcome with the property owner. We'll continue to do that. But the needs of the project require that there be a specific timeline associated with the acquisition of the parcel. So that's why we like the backstop here of the condemnation authorization. In that regard, recommend your approval.
Questions of the General Manager on this item? Okay, then I think we're ready. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 12-11-100, authorizing TriMet to acquire by purchase or by the exercise of power of eminent domain certain real property necessary to construct the Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail Project?
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none. Abstentions? Seeing none there. Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on, we have two ordinances today. They are both second reading, so we can take action on those today. So the first is Ordinance 325. I think I'll turn to our General Counsel to ask her to read this ordinance by title only.
Ordinance number 325 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, TriMet, altering the district boundary and amending TriMet Code Chapter 3.
So we heard the subject and the issues at our first reading. Is there any need or desire by the board to ask any questions about this ordinance at this time?
I have a general question, not
Please.
specifically about the ordinance, if I may.
Please.
In respect to our efforts and those of Clackamas County, other service providers, general service providers, not transit service providers, to provide some relief for those individuals that might otherwise not be served by TriMet or
Yes.
so an update.
Yeah, you're right. So, anticipation of the question, we actually do have an effort continuing underway with Clackamas County, Ride Connection, and ourselves to sort of make sure that all of the clients that were served by Lyft have some other options. And I'm wondering if, David, do you have any updates on that right now?
When last we spoke with Clackamas County and the Ride Connection, they're looking to see some funding, some additional funding to help with that effort. And so right now we're sort of acting as an information tool to our Lyft customers that may be affected. And hopefully their grant funding will come through and they'll be able to offer some options to those customers at this point.
We can provide you a further update at an upcoming meeting, perhaps at your December meeting, if you'd like.
If we could, some delineation of deadlines or objectives to be completed by when. And then another question would be is if are we seeing any provision of service by anyone else that might provide folks other than those that require Lyft services, any access to that community? And whatever that might mean, I don't know. It could be that, I'm trying to remember the name of the mill site in that area, if they're providing any carpooling or any sharing of services or van pooling or something like that. It just would be interesting. I think we had to make a serious decision. We know it's going to have some impact. I think the board would be benefited by knowing, and so would the community, if in response to that, actions have been taken by certain dates.
Yeah, let's get an update to you on that with more details than I can provide you right now.
Good question, thank you. Other questions from the board on this one? All right, seeing none, then I think we ought to go call for the vote, and this is a roll call vote, so I'm going to ask our general counsel again, call the roll.
Thank you, and we'll start with you. Board President Warner.
Aye.
Board Member Bethel.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Schweitzer.
Aye.
And Board Member Zaragoza.
Aye.
I just realized I didn't ask for a motion to approve first. Should I do that? Should I ask for a motion to actually approve this, since we didn't, or do we need to? I'm asking.
That's a good question. I think a motion probably would have been
Yeah,
appropriate.
let's restart over. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve ordinance 325, altering the district boundary and amending the TriMet Code, Chapter 3.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Now, let's redo the roll call vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Board President Warner.
Aye.
And Board Member Bethel.
Well, I'll take the opportunity to say something at this point, doing that it was a very serious decision that we had to make in order to withdraw boring. The concern was for the customers that were being affected, and we still have that concern, and we do hope that boring, along with other employees there, will continue to work to help solve some of the issues that are present now due to this withdrawal, but I do support the boundary realignment. Aye.
Okay. And Board Member Clark.
Aye.
And Board Member Schweitzer.
Aye.
And Board Member Zaragoza.
Aye.
All right. So the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. And we'll move on to ordinance 326. Mrs. General Counsel, would you please read?
Yes, thank you. Ordinance number 326 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, TriMet, amending Chapter 14 of the TriMet Code to revise the definition of net earnings from self-employment.
Thank you. And again, for the benefit of the audience, this is just linking up our tax code with the federal tax code, so there's no questions. It's a fairly routine and simple matter.
That's correct.
All right. Are there any questions or comments from the board at this time? Okay, then I would ask for a motion to approve ordinance 326, amending title or Chapter 14 of the TriMet Code to revise the definition of net earnings from self-employment.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Thank you. Any other further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, excuse me, I'm going to just call for a roll call vote. Ms. Cran, please.
Okay. Board President Warner.
Aye.
Board Member Bethel.
Aye.
Board Member Clark.
Aye.
Board Member Schweitzer.
Aye.
And Board Member Zaragoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, that actually concludes the business portion of our agenda, unless there's items to come before the board that I don't know about, or anything from the board members. Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn the meeting and move into the public forum. And again, to remind folks, this is not part of the meeting. People wishing to testify during the public forum are encouraged to submit their full testimony in writing and summarize their comments at the meeting. Public comment should be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The number of speakers allowed to present depends upon the number of people wishing to address the board and the time remaining in our schedule. I would point out that we have, looks like about 12 folks, we have a couple more, one more. We have about 13 or 14 who've signed up for the public forum. So I'm going to call those in the order that they were submitted. And the first person that wishing to testify is Lane Jensen. I'd also want to call up Michael Levine, who's next in order. So Lane, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, board members, Mr. President, Mr. McFarland. I come to you again with another serious issue like I did last time around with the issues down at the Transit Mall. This time it's at Park Rose Transit Center. I have noticed, I've also pulled the data together. There's a major time point there at Park Rose where the 12 and the 21 come together, and 90% of the day the 21 is pulling out as the 12 is coming into Park Rose Transit Center, causing people to wait at least 15 to 20 minutes for the next 21 to show up to Gresham Transit Center. Usually what's happening is it's about a 5-minute difference between the 21 leaving and the 12 getting in there. Most drivers, morning drivers, will stay that extra 5 minutes to get the people from the 12 to the 12 line. What I think needs to be done is the 21 schedule needs to be rewritten, so that the 21 stays there just a bit longer, 3 to 5 minutes, therefore allowing those people to make a seamless connection like it used to be before the 12 line was cut down at Park Roads. That way people are not having to wait outside. People are not, especially at Park Roads Transit Center, the wind gets pretty bitter out there, it gets cold, and there's a possibility of frostbite out there as well, especially in the wintertime. Even this morning, I live in Fairview, there was a wind gust of 61 miles an hour this morning. People waiting out in that are not going to be very happy if they see their 21 leaving while the 12 is pulling in. I don't think that's very fair to everybody who goes out to Gresham via that route. I think that needs to be fixed. Another thing too, I actually on Monday went to every ticket machine and validator on the east side along the Max from Cleveland Avenue out to Gateway Transit Center. I'm doing an experiment. Found that only 81% of the ticket machines are working as of Monday, and 79% of the validators. As I've heard many times, Mary Fetch has always said that 90% of the machines are working at any given time, 90% or more. Now, in that area, there's over 50,000 people that go through that section alone in a week. So in my opinion, something needs to be done about that. Also, Twitter is a huge source of information, especially for fare inspectors, for dispatch, because many people are posting on there when a ticket machine is not working. Most of the time they will take a picture of it and post it as well. Inspectors are not looking at that. Dispatch doesn't know about it. All that happens is that it just gets posted out there. That's it. Nobody knows. Therefore, when inspectors get on, they don't believe the people who are saying that the machine is not working, and therefore causes more issues. Therefore, I really think that needs to be fixed as well, where dispatch is looking at Twitter to figure out what's going on with their ticket machines. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate your work, concern. Michael?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I really don't know how to start, so I'm just going to kind of kick in. I will not be coming before you probably ever again. I have terminal cancer. As some of you know, I've been ill, and we have now figured out what it is. The doctors don't seem to think that I'll be here much past March. I'm hoping, however, with the years and years of effort that I put into trying to make TriMet a better transit district for people with disabilities, underlying my specialty, with the hundreds, if not thousands, of emails and Facebook messages that I've been getting, that I'm going to be in people's hearts and thanking for the changes I've made in their lives. I've got to believe that I've done some good. But you're the only people that can make sure that the good continues, and in some cases that the good begins. There are many, many deficiencies in TriMet when it comes to people with disabilities. There is still discrimination when it comes to people with disabilities, and it seems to be just turn the other cheek, we'll worry about it later. Well, it's not exactly spelled out, but yet the FDA encourages entities to take the extra steps, which seems to become more and more difficult at TriMet. I'm not going to be here to do it anymore, folks. I don't know what needs to be done. There's been an issue for years about the speakers on the transit mall for giving real-time transit. It's clear, all right, your attorney said, well, we don't have to have it because the law says that we don't have to have it, period. Well, that's correct. But the law also says that if you're going to provide that type of information, for one class of people, you have to provide it for all classes of people. It's called civil rights. Yeah. Your attorneys are wrong. While I'm waiting to go, I'm going to do some writing, excuse me, to the feds and to legislators that I know, and maybe they'll follow through on some of what I've started. I'm hoping my health will last long enough for me to do that. But you've got to wake up. You've got to realize that when you're dealing with people with disabilities, especially people that are lift eligible, people with disabilities, that sometimes you do have to look the other way, and sometimes you have to make the hard decisions that aren't just financial, but are human. You know, riding around on a wheelchair for the last 2.5 weeks, walking around with a cane for years, it's a whole different perspective. You've heard me talk about disability awareness training and how much I believe in it. To be honest, it sucks compared to going out and doing what I'm doing. You need to be out there feeling, touching, seeing, and understanding. And you keep hearing about machines that are broken, this that are broken. You know, what is it? You hear from those of us that come up to the table, that go out and do our own audits at our own time, because you have problems, then you hear from the staff that you don't have problems. Where is the problem? If there were no problems, you wouldn't have people up here testifying. Where are the real problems? What are you going to do to fix it? You've got what was the makings of a great transit entity. I was proud at the time that I served on CAT as vice chair to be a member of CAT. I'm not proud to see what's going on in CAT. Bruce, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you took on the hat. Do you know who the person is, the last person is that you just appointed to CAT? Do you know the person?
No, I don't. I do not.
Well, don't you think that's an insult to the disability community? I can say this since I'm dying and I'm not going to have to worry about it coming back and biting me in the ass. You realize that you appointed a man to the CAT committee that's more interested in freaking toilets than anything else when it has to do with CAT and or a bad lift ride he had. CAT is being made up of more and more people that are seat warmers, not bodies trying to help you make changes. More and more CAT members are seat warmers, and you just put the worst one on. Do something, folks. You're the only ones that can.
Michael, thank you. Pleased to see you here. I'm sorry we will not see you again here, but my advice to you is fight on, and we do appreciate your work on the behalf of folks who need help and your service on the CAT committee. So again, thanks for the time. Appreciate it, and we will follow up on some of your issues. Thanks again. All right. Any other thoughts on the part of the board? All right. Albert Rouse and Anhala Elabi. Anhala, why don't you go ahead?
Angela Ellaby.
Angela. Oh, Angela. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're very multicultural and very My name is Angela Ellaby. I am a longtime member of the Woodlawn Neighborhood Association. I've served in many positions. Land use chair was my most recent one, and I also serve on the Northeast Coalition Land Use and Transportation Committee. And I was recently elected to be vice chair of the Woodlawn Neighborhood Association. I'm also wearing the hat as the Neighborhood Association historian. I know every one of you can read, so I'm not going to read from the material that I gave to you in the testimony, but I'm going to give you a bit of the historical perspective of our neighborhood. The Woodlawn neighborhood is very similar to the Ladd addition in that the streets are at very interesting angles, and that is because the train that used to take people from downtown Portland to Vancouver was routed through our neighborhood at an angle, and that left a triangle in the middle that's been recognized with historic designation. And that triangle grew up because of the train into a bustling business district. Then the city of Portland spoiled it all by annexing the town of Woodlawn and making it a subsidiary. The train was no longer important. Streetcars came through the neighborhood. We have streetcar tracks down the middle of Deacon Street. I have been a member of the planning committee in the Woodlawn neighborhood, and we planned zoning along Deacon Street and along Martin Luther King so that it would be better served by high-density bus transit. So I want you to understand that we are very pro-transit, very pro-buses. I receive, as land use chair, notices from TriMet, notices from other agencies as to changes that would be made. The notice I got back in March basically said that the line 8 was going to stop at about 9th and Deacon. It said nothing about the line 8 then having to travel around the triangle. It said nothing about it being a layover point, needing restrooms. And it said nothing about the fact that buses at an idle make noise for the neighbors. In short, the information that was given to us was inadequate for us to come to earlier meetings and respond in a timely manner. Since then, TriMet representatives have been doing a very intense job of trying to communicate with us, but what they keep saying is the situation, which is now unacceptable, is going to continue until March. And just hang in there. We're going to maybe make the situation 40% less unacceptable by moving the problems of the layover site a few blocks over to a street, Ainsworth, which is bordering our neighborhood and the King neighborhood. So it's moving the problem from point A to point B. In the letters that we received from your representatives, they say, we are working on a way to totally move the situation out of your neighborhood. We know it's creating a lot of problems. And in my letter, I just say, please move the situation out of the neighborhood back to the Jupit stop where it used to be.
So thank you. We know this is a big issue, and we're working on it, right, Mr. General Manager?
We are. Yep, absolutely.
Great. Mr. Rouse.
Couple big problems here. I'm going to need someone to help me read my notes. My sight has deteriorated to the point where it's difficult.
Can I do that for you?
Yes.
Okay.
And also my cognitive skills have gone down a lot too recently.
First note, safety. First note, safety.
Safety equipment.
Safety equipment missing.
Okay, you can whisper. I think everyone could hear that without the microphones, but whatever. I noted on the latest series of buses some safety deficiencies. I tried to go the regular route through TriMet and to seek help on this. I found out that there is a safety committee who looks over new equipment for bus fleets, and I also found out There's no one on that committee that's blind. Next page.
6 safety concerns.
I've noticed 6 safety concerns, namely equipment that's not there, that's always been on all the other fleets back to and including Rose City Transit and its predecessor, Portland Traction. Most of these deficiencies could be corrected each one in a half hour or less of time. Where I'm coming from is these need to be addressed before the warranties run out on this latest fleet that you bought, the 3000 series. Therefore, it would be no cost to TriMet or the taxpayers. If that can't be done, it can be done with a grant, because it would be capital improvement rather than maintenance. Risk management people should appreciate this concern, because TriMet does not need any more lawsuits, accidents to pay benefits to, and that only just increases your expenses. So my main point is, let's keep the expenses low. And by the way, I've fallen on 2 of the new buses because that equipment was not there. I have approached 2 individuals on equipment on the buses. Essentially, I got nothing but lip service and no answers, no responses. And what I'm thinking here is protectionism. The 2 employees that I am thinking of, if they come forward to the general manager and state these problems and attempt to get them fixed, well, nobody likes to rattle the people upstairs because of the simple fact that the people upstairs can help them out the door. And I think that's really what's going on. If they squawk to try to get these things fixed, they're helping themselves out the door. And I don't think that's the way to run any kind of a business, whether it's a public entity or a private enterprise. Is there anything else on it?
No, you did it.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and I would appreciate some sort of response back. I've tried to get a hold of Mr. McFarland. He seems to be immune from all, I'm losing a sentence here, I'm sorry. He seems to be isolated where we cannot have a conversation with him. So I'm asking the board, I'm asking the general manager to address these issues more seriously.
Thank you, Albert.
Thank you.
Mangel, thanks for helping out there. Okay, the next 2 that come up is, and I'm probably going to murder some names here. It's Peter Mache, M-A-T-J-E, and Samani Machois.
Peter had to leave.
Okay.
And my name is Sarani.
Sarani, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here asking your help. My husband is 72, I'm 62. Having essentially a transit center plopped in front of our home is affecting our sleep, our health, and our sanity. We live at 966 Northeast Deacon, directly across from the layover site. Prior to 2002, I spent some years working with Fred Helm and Shirley Block trying to deal with noise and other problems. Fed up, we had decided to take the issue to court when we were told by Fred that Line 8 was moving to Delta Park.